Can I ask you? Oh, this is good. This is really good. So you were married at the time when you did change churches, or the journey towards changing churches. Can I ask you what was your wife thinking when you were having these conversations? What was her journey? Because this is always the question. Like for all the guys that are listening, and for people who are like, I'm thinking of changing denominations, and and I tell young guys, I go, you can't just do something without bringing your wife on this. And I remember, because for me, in one sentence, like when I said to my wife, I said, look, I want to resign from this Anglican youth ministry role. I love the role, but I felt called to go back to study for 3 more years and pursue ordination. And I said, I won't leave unless you come with me and support me on this, And we had so many conversations. Yeah. So what was it like for you? Yeah. It's like Pastor Peter's now.
That's a good question. That's a really good question. So my wife is not convictionally Lutheran.
Okay.
But she is very godly and submissive. So
thanks be to God.
So my advice would be, if you're going through a intense study period like I did for 2 years, don't do what I did. Bring your wife into it much, much earlier. Bring your wife into it and communicate better than I did. Like, it wasn't like I didn't communicate about this stuff, but she wasn't super interested. And so I was just kind of doing my own thing. And we had a lot of discussions. And there were other reasons for us to leave the church we were in. For me, the Lutheran and sacramental convictions were a big part of that, but that wasn't the only issue.
Okay.
So the leaving part was not as difficult necessarily. Even though we were, I kind of slow walked it, to be honest. And I met with one of the pastors at the church, our former church as well, and talked some stuff out, just because I wanted to, if I was going to leave a church, I didn't want him to be the consumeristic kind of church shopper, because in the Bible Belt where I am, there's people who go to a different church every week. They don't like something at one church and they're just quick to go to the next one. So I definitely didn't want to just, quickly cast off what I'd been in for, almost a decade. I wanted to do it carefully and,
good.
So.
I mean, like, one of the things I heard, because I was leaving the Melbourne Anglican diocese to go to Adelaide. And I didn't know anyone in the Lutheran church at all. I didn't know any people. I only knew that this is what I believed in terms of Book of Concord. So in one sense, I believed before I belonged. If that's and so, but one of the things I read before, which I did a lot, it was very slow, and I remember reading Peter Adams. He's like the Herman Zusser of the Anglican world in the Melbourne diocese. He's quite old now. He's still alive. He would have to be in his late mid-90s almost. He's very old. He's a scholar, ex-principal of Ridley College, which is named after Nicholas Ridley, a Anglican bishop in Oxford, who was executed in 1552, I think it was. Anyway, Peter Adams wrote, and I quote, he said, "If we are to leave our church or denomination, it is better to leave in sorrow rather than in pride." And I think I took that with me, because I think if you leave in pride, it kind of allows the fact that, this whole I'm superior or I'm better in some way. I've come to some sort of actual, and you all suck and whatever. And it just it doesn't do anyone any favors, and so. And it sounds like, again, if anyone's thinking of doing that, I would say, always slow, methodical, gracious, contemplative, and with your pastor's blessing, even if you disagree, better go, come with me on this journey. That's good. I think, and it sounds like everyone's different, as from what I can see. But and your children are doing well in the parish that you're at. Which parish you at in Dallas there?
We are in a suburb, a suburb that's kind of north of Dallas. And it got a good church here that, the pastor's, one of the big things I think is they know my name, right? I know them.
Oh,
I can text
it's
them.
beautiful.
I can meet up with them. They're very available. It's great. It is fantastic. It really is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, because I was at a mega church before, and it was, there was good. We had great relationships with a lot of the people there, and then in our small groups and home groups and that sort of thing that we were part of. Still, great, even best friends with several of them. Hang out all the time.
That's good.
But there wasn't. It was a massive church. That you don't have the pastor's number. You see them once a week on Sunday.
This is the thing, right? This is the thing. Yeah. It's so different, though, isn't it? Like,
it's
and
a
I've
very
noticed this
different
as well.
style. Yeah.
That the pastor's the guy up the front. He preaches. We listen, and you don't have any connection with him at all, except that you're at his church, and then as opposed to like, I make sure that I'm available to my people and that I visit if people need me. Like that I make sure that I can go. And that, that the pastor isn't just the guy at the front, but he's actually sitting in my kitchen and he's listening to me talk about something, that there is this connection that you are there to shepherd them when they need it. So it is very different. I mean, this is I guess you found the same thing, Micah, is that, when I came to the Lutheran church, I noticed, even though I hadn't experienced it and I wasn't aware of it, but at least culturally, there is a huge culture of pastoral visitation in the homes, that pastors visit their people and they shepherd with them, they walk with them. So there is that there. But I hadn't experienced that at all, ever, in the Pentecostal church. Very different.
Yeah, early on there was a couple of different churches that I was talking to pastors at, a couple of different Lutheran churches. One is about 30 miles away, and a friend of mine goes there. And that pastor was like, "Oh yeah, I'll drive. Like I'll come and disciple you. I'll walk you through, the small catechism, large He was offering to drive like 30 miles, 60 miles extra a week just to come and disciple us. And I was like, wow, okay, like that's awesome.
It speaks, it's huge. It's beautiful. Yeah. Because it kind of shows, like, especially if you're like been a bit beat up, like spiritually or whatever, you just like when someone says, "I'm going to go out of my way to serve you," that love, like you feel that love of Christ from people. So,